My name is Ivy Leong. I was once a top medical student. I fell for the wrong powerful man and found myself standing outside a hospital, pregnant with twins, abandoned by the world. But I didn't break. I turned heartbreak into a breakthrough, one that's now saving thousands of lives, all starting from a garage and 2 children no one wanted to claim. Before I share my story, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever faced betrayal, loss, or had to rise again for your family, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. The pregnancy test trembled in my hands, 2 pink lines blurring through tears I didn't know were falling. Joy, pure, overwhelming joy flooded through me as I pressed my palm against my still flat stomach. Graham would be thrilled. We'd talked about children, about the future, about the life we'd build together after I finished med school. I tucked the test into my purse, right next to the acceptance letter for my residency match at Northwestern Memorial. Everything was falling into place. 26 years old, top of my class at University of Chicago Medical School, and carrying the child of the man I loved. The American dream my mother had sown into existence, one late-night alteration at a time, was finally mine. The elevator to Graham's penthouse hummed its familiar tune, 52 floors up, where the Chicago skyline glittered like promises kept. I smoothed my dress, the blue one he'd bought me for my birthday, the one that made him say I looked like a dream. "Graham," I called, stepping into the apartment. "I have something to tell you." He stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to me. Something in his posture made my stomach drop. The champagne I'd bought sat unopened on the counter. "Ivy." He didn't turn around. "We need to talk." Those 4 words. Every woman knows those 4 words change everything. "I'm getting married," he said, finally facing me. His eyes, those green eyes that used to look at me like I was his whole world, were cold, calculating. "To Victoria Whitmore, the governor's daughter. The engagement party is next month." The room tilted. I gripped the marble countertop, my knuckles white. "But Graham, I'm pregnant." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Then his face twisted into something I'd never seen before. Disgust. Pure, undiluted disgust. "No," he said simply. "You're not. Graham, I have the test. You're going to take care of it." His voice was clinical, detached. "I'll write you a check. 50,000 should cover it and compensate you for your discretion." Compensate. Like I was a business transaction. Like the 2 years we'd shared were nothing more than a line item on his expense report. "I won't." "Yes, you will." He moved closer, and for the first time I was afraid of him. "Do you understand what's at stake here? My father's company is merging with Whitmore Industries. This marriage secures a political dynasty. You?" He laughed, sharp and cruel. "You're the daughter of a seamstress from Saigon. You were never part of the plan, Ivy. You were just convenient." Convenient. The word shattered something inside me. "Get out," he said, turning back to the window. "And if you're smart, you'll stay quiet. The Caldwell name carries weight in this city. Every hospital, every clinic, every door you need opened. Remember that." I stumbled out of the penthouse, my legs barely carrying me. In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the polished steel. The blue dress mocked me. I looked like a dream, all right. A dream that just became a nightmare. The email came at 3 a.m. while I was hunched over my laptop in my cramped studio apartment, trying to figure out how to tell my mother. "Dear Miss Liang, after careful review of your recent conduct, the University of Chicago School of Medicine has decided to terminate your enrollment effective immediately. This decision is final." My hand shook as I scrolled down. Vague accusations. Unprofessional conduct. Violation of academic integrity. Failure to maintain standards befitting the medical profession. Lies, all of it. But Graham's father sat on the hospital board. The Caldwell name did carry weight. Within 48 hours, my world crumbled like old newspaper. The apartment, I'd been stupid enough to let Graham co-sign the lease. Eviction notice. The credit cards, linked to his account as authorized user. Frozen. Even my checking account, contaminated by his occasional deposits, suddenly under fraud investigation. I stood outside my mother's apartment in South Side, the garbage bag of hastily packed belongings cutting into my palm. Through the window, I could see her bent over her sewing machine, working on someone's wedding dress. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Con gai," she said when she opened the door, her Vietnamese endearment wrapping around me like armor. My daughter. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside without questions. I couldn't tell her. How could I? She'd sacrificed everything to give me this chance. Fled Vietnam with nothing. Built a life stitch by stitch so I could become a doctor. The words stuck in my throat like glass. "I'm just taking a break," I lied, curled on her couch that night. "Stress. You know." But at the clinic the next week, Dr. Nguyen's face told a different story as she moved the ultrasound wand across my belly. "Ivy," she said slowly, "do you see this? 2 heartbeats, 2 tiny, flickering lights on the screen. Twins." I laughed. Actually laughed, because what else could I do? Graham had destroyed my life over one baby. Now there were 2. A boy and a girl, she told me. Fraternal twins, each fighting for space in my womb like they knew they'd need to be fighters from the start. "You have options," Dr. Nguyen said gently, and I knew she'd heard the rumors. The Vietnamese community in Chicago was small. Gossip traveled fast. "No," I said, staring at those 2 pulsing lights. "They're mine." That night, I called every hospital, every clinic, every medical facility in Chicago. The moment they heard my name, the answer was the same. "I'm sorry, but we're not hiring. The position has been filled. We'll keep your resume on file." The Caldwell name carried weight, all right. It was crushing me. I took a job at a bubble tea shop in Chinatown. Days serving sugar and tapioca pearls to college kids who had no idea their server used to be one of them. Evenings cleaning offices in the medical building where I once attended lectures. Nights in a sketchy lab doing quality control for a dermatologist who paid cash and didn't ask questions. My mother watched me leave each morning, her eyes full of questions she wouldn't ask. I watched my belly grow, felt the twins tumble and kick, and wondered what kind of life I was bringing them into. Rock bottom, I learned, isn't a destination. It's a trapdoor that keeps opening beneath your feet. The box sat in my mother's closet like a ghost. "Your old papers," she said, pulling it out while we cleaned. "I saved everything." Inside, between my high school diploma and SAT scores, I found it. My undergraduate thesis on revascularization in pediatric cardiac patients, the research that had gotten me into med school, the work that felt like a lifetime ago. I sat on the floor, reading through my own handwriting, remembering the girl who'd written these words. She'd believed she could save lives. She'd believed in a lot of things. "You were so proud of this," my mother said, sitting beside me. "You stayed up 3 nights straight to finish it." That night, after my shift at the lab, I opened my laptop. The research was still solid. More than solid, it was innovative. I'd proposed a theoretical model for a liquid membrane that could support vessel growth in damaged tissue. Back then, it was just an idea. But working in the dermatology lab had given me access to equipment, materials, time. I started rewriting. Between serving bubble tea and mopping floors, I refined the concept. The twins kicked and rolled as I worked, like they were cheering me on. At 20 weeks, when I found out one was a boy and one a girl, I whispered their names to the empty lab. Lucas and Luna. Light and shadow. What my life had become, the work saved me. When customers were rude, when my feet ached, when I threw up between cleaning toilets because morning sickness didn't care about my work schedule, I thought about the research, about the possibility that maybe, just maybe, I could still contribute something to the world. I posted portions on ResearchGate, the open academic platform, because I had nothing left to lose. My university email was gone, my credentials stripped, but my mind still worked. My ideas still had value. 3 months in, an email appeared in my personal inbox. Dr. Sarah Chen from Stanford. I came across your work on liquid angiogenesis membranes. This is groundbreaking. Are you currently affiliated with an institution? I'd like to discuss collaboration. I stared at the screen, tears streaming down my face. Lucas kicked hard, right under my ribs, while Luna stretched and pushed against my side. Even they knew this was important. I'm an independent researcher, I typed back. Truth, but not the whole truth. Even better, she replied within minutes. Academic bureaucracy stifles innovation. When can we talk? That night, I told my mother everything. About Graham, about the twins, about the blacklisting. She held me while I sobbed, her hands gentle in my hair. Kongai, she whispered. In Vietnam, we have a saying. The bamboo that bends survives the storm. You are bending, not breaking. I'm scared, Mom. Good, she said, placing her hand on my belly. Fear means you have something worth fighting for. These babies, they are your revolution. I thought she meant it metaphorically, but looking back, my mother has always been wiser than me. She knew that sometimes the greatest rebellions begin not with grand gestures, but with the simple act of refusing to disappear. The research became my lifeline, pulled taut between who I'd been and who I was becoming. The contractions started during my night shift at the lab, 20 minutes apart, manageable. I had 6 weeks left until my due date, plenty of time. 20 minutes became 10, 10 became 5. Just Braxton Hicks, I muttered, gripping the lab bench as another wave crashed over me. The culture samples needed processing. Rent was due. I couldn't afford to. My water broke in a spectacular gush, soaking through my scrubs. Luna, always the dramatic one. The Uber driver took one look at me and almost drove off. Lady, I don't want no baby born in my car. They're not coming right now, I lied through gritted teeth. Just Northwestern Memorial, please. Graham's hospital. The irony wasn't lost on me as I stumbled through the emergency entrance, clutching my belly. Some of the staff might recognize me. The former Golden Girl, now very pregnant and very alone. 31 weeks, I gasped at triage. Twins. Previous ultrasound showed. Another contraction stole my words. Everything moved fast after that. IVs, monitors, worried faces. We need to slow this down, Dr. Martinez said. Your babies need more time. But Lucas and Luna had inherited my stubbornness. Or maybe they knew, even then, that waiting wasn't always an option. Luna came first, screaming and flailing, all 3 pounds of fury. But Lucas... He's not breathing, someone said, and the world stopped. I watched them work on my son, my medical training making it worse because I understood every word. Respiratory distress, possible pneumothorax, intubation. The positioning, I heard myself say. Check for his left lung, Ma'am, please let us, I'm a doctor. The words ripped out of me. 4th year medical, just check. Maybe it was my desperation. Maybe it was luck. But the neonatologist paused, ordered the x-ray, found the small pneumothorax I'd suspected from the way Lucas had been positioned in utero. A needle decompression later, my son's cry joined his sister's. Good catch, Dr. Martinez said later, Lucas stable in his isolette. You said you're a doctor? Was. Almost was. The truth felt heavy. It's complicated. She studied me, this woman who'd just delivered my children. Medicine needs people who fight for their patients like you just fought for your son. Whatever happened, don't give up. I spent 3 weeks in the NICU, learning to feed babies who weighed less than bags of flour. 3 weeks of alarms and oxygen levels and weight checks. My mother came every day, bringing food and holding whichever twin I wasn't holding. The day before discharge, an email arrived. The Provisional Patent Office had accepted my initial filing for the liquid angiogenesis membrane. And more. A nonprofit science incubator called BioForward had noticed my work. They were offering a $30,000 seed grant. I read the email while Lucas slept on my chest, his breathing finally easy and unlabored. Luna fussed in her isolette until my mother picked her up, humming a Vietnamese lullaby. "You hear that?" I whispered to my son. "Mama's not done yet." That night, I registered my company from the Nice You Parents Lounge, Nova BioStart, because every ending was also a beginning. And my children had taught me that the smallest sparks could ignite the biggest fires. Dr. Martinez was right. Medicine did need fighters. Good thing I was done with giving up. "You want to do what with my garage?" My mother stood, hands on hips, staring at the makeshift lab equipment I'd bought with the first grant installment. "It's temporary, Mom, just until I can afford proper space." She muttered something in Vietnamese about daughters who'd lost their minds, but helped me carry in the secondhand incubator I'd found on eBay. Nova BioStart operated on a shoestring and pure determination. Days, I worked the bubble tea shop with Lucas strapped to my chest and Luna in a carrier on my back. Customers cooed over them, not knowing their mother mixed polymers and grew tissue cultures after midnight in a converted garage. The first prototype failed spectacularly. So did the second. And the third. "Maybe it's time to consider Graham's offer," my mother suggested gently one night, after I'd fallen asleep at my desk again. "For the children." "No." The word came out harder than intended. "We don't need him." But at 3 a.m., with Luna crying from teething and Lucas refusing his bottle, I wondered if my pride was costing my children a better life. Graham's family had resources, connections, everything I couldn't give them. The breakthrough came, like most breakthroughs do, by accident. I'd contaminated a sample with baby formula. Exhaustion made me sloppy. But instead of discarding it, I examined the interaction under the microscope. The proteins had created an unexpected binding pattern, more stable than anything I'd achieved before. 6 months later, I stood in a conference room at Children's National Hospital in D.C., presenting to a room full of skeptics. The membrane essentially teaches damaged tissue how to rebuild its own vascular network, I explained, clicking through slides I'd prepared during the twins' nap times. In our preliminary trials with cardiac tissue samples, I saw the moment their skepticism shifted. The chief of pediatric cardiac surgery leaned forward. "This could change everything for our hypoplastic left heart patients." "That's the idea," I said, thinking of Lucas's first terrifying moments. Of all the babies who wouldn't be as lucky. The email came on a Tuesday. Caldwell Biologics wanted to explore partnership opportunities with Nova BioStart. I laughed until I cried, then cried until the twins got worried. Luna patted my face with her chubby hands while Lucas offered me his favorite toy truck. "Mama's okay," I told them. "Mama's just finding this very funny." I crafted my response carefully. Professional, polite. "Thank you for your interest. However, Nova BioStart is not currently seeking partnerships with organizations whose values don't align with our mission of accessible healthcare innovation." In other words, go to hell, Graham. The response came within hours. Not from their legal department, but from Graham himself. The first contact in 2 years. "Ivy, we need to talk about the children. I have rights." Rights. He wanted to talk about rights. I looked at Lucas, studiously stacking blocks with the concentration he'd inherited from me. At Luna, dancing to music only she could hear, lost in a world of her own making. "You have no rights," I typed back. "Rights are earned." Then I blocked his number and got back to work. The hospital in D.C. wanted to move forward with trials. Stanford's biodesign program had offered me a full scholarship for my PhD, with family housing included. The girl who'd stood in that penthouse, shattered and alone, wouldn't recognize the woman I'd become. Good. She'd been dreaming the wrong dreams anyway. The San Francisco Chronicle ran the headline 3 days before my Stanford orientation. Medical maverick or mistress? The secret past of biotech's rising star. Someone had leaked everything. The affair with Graham, they made it sound so tawdry. The twins, my expelled status from University of Chicago, twisted to imply academic fraud rather than personal vengeance. "Mama, why are you sad?" Luna asked, finding me crying over my laptop in our tiny Palo Alto apartment. "Just grown-up stuff, baby. I fix it." She ran off and returned with her doctor kit, placing a plastic stethoscope on my chest. "All better." If only. The story went viral in medical Twitter. #MedicalMistress trended for 12 horrible hours. Stanford called an emergency meeting. The DC trial was put on hold pending review of circumstances. But then something unexpected happened. Dr. Nguyen, who'd delivered the twins, posted a thread. "I've watched at Ivy Liang work 3 jobs while pregnant with twins, develop groundbreaking technology in a garage, and never once compromise her integrity. The real story here isn't about her past. It's about why promising female physicians can be destroyed by powerful men with no consequences." The thread exploded. Other doctors came forward. Nurses who'd seen me working nights while 7 months pregnant. The janitor from the medical building who'd found me studying in the supply closet between shifts. My bubble tea shop manager who shared security footage of me serving customers with a baby strapped to my back while reviewing research papers between orders. "The real scandal," one prominent physician tweeted, "is that we almost lost this innovation because a wealthy man couldn't handle rejection." The tide turned. #BurnBrightIvy replaced the uglier hashtag. Women in medicine shared their own stories of powerful men trying to destroy their careers. Graham's team tried damage control. A carefully worded statement about misunderstandings and supporting co-parenting relationships. Then came the photos. Graham at charity galas, holding other people's babies. The perfect family man married to his governor's daughter. "Let them spin," my Stanford advisor, Dr. Chen, told me. "Your work speaks louder than their PR machine." The first successful trial at Children's National proved her right. A 3-year-old with complex cardiac defects given a 20% chance of survival with traditional methods. The membrane worked. The child lived. I watched the surgery via video link, Lucas on my lap and Luna coloring beside us. When the surgeon announced success, I sobbed so hard both kids got worried again. "Happy tears," I told them. "Sometimes we cry because we're happy." The medical community took notice. Real notice, not scandal-driven clicks. Investment offers poured in. Speaking invitations. Collaboration requests from institutions that had once wouldn't return my calls. Including one from Northwestern Memorial. Graham's Hospital. They wanted me to present at their innovation symposium. "You don't have to do this," Dr. Chen said. "You've proven your point." But that was just it. I hadn't set out to prove points. I'd set out to save lives. "I'll do it," I decided, but on my terms. The acceptance letter felt like armor. The twins would come with me. Chicago would see exactly what Graham Caldwell had tried to throw away. My mother was right. Bamboo bends but doesn't break, and sometimes, when the storm passes, it stands taller than the trees that seemed so mighty. "We're going on an airplane," I told the twins. "To see Daddy?" Lucas asked, and my heart clenched. They'd been asking more questions lately. "No, baby, to show people Mama's work, and to see Grandma." "Grandma!" They cheered in unison, and I smiled. Some homecomings were about reconciliation. This one was about revolution. The San Francisco Medical Innovation Summit hummed with energy. 500 of medicine's brightest minds gathered to glimpse the future. I stood backstage, adjusting the microphone pack, when I heard his voice. "The Caldwell Foundation is proud to support emerging technologies." Graham, of course he was here. Of course he was spinning my work into his family's narrative of benevolence. "Mama, you're squeezing too tight," Luna complained. I loosened my grip on her hand. "Sorry, sweetheart." I'd left the twins with my colleague during my presentation, but they'd wandered back, drawn by the sound of my voice during the Q&A. Now they stood beside me in the wings, Lucas in his dinosaur shirt, and Luna in her sparkly dress, watching the stage with wide eyes. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Ivy Liang about the Nova biomembrane technology. I walked onto the stage, shoulders back, chin high. The auditorium fell silent. Graham sat in the third row, his face a mask of political pleasantness that cracked when he saw me. I presented my work with the passion of someone who'd bled for every breakthrough. The slides showed the children we'd saved, the futures we'd rewritten. The membrane wasn't just science. It was hope made tangible. The technology is open source in developing nations, I concluded, because innovation means nothing if it only saves the wealthy. The applause was thunderous. But I only heard the silence from the third row. During the break, I found the twins at the refreshment table, Lucas carefully stacking cookies while Luna charmed a Nobel laureate into sharing his juice box. "They're beautiful," a familiar voice said behind me. I didn't turn. "Yes, they are." "Ivy," Graham moved into my peripheral vision. "They look like their mother." I finally faced him. The years had been kind to him physically, but there was something hollow in his eyes. "What do you want?" "I want to know them. They're nothing to you." My voice carried the kind of calm that comes after a storm. "You made that choice 2 years ago." I was young, scared. I was scared too. I watched Lucas help a younger child reach a napkin. Luna pirouetted between the tables, lost in her own world. But I didn't run. Graham stepped closer, and I saw him truly look at our children for the first time. Lucas had his jawline, Luna had his eyes, but everything else, their kindness, their curiosity, their resilience, that was all mine. "I could fight for custody," he said quietly. "I have resources." "You could." I smiled, and it wasn't bitter anymore, just tired. "But we both know you won't, because then you'd have to admit they exist. And Victoria wouldn't like that, would she? The governor's daughter finding out about your, what did you call me, convenience?" He flinched. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to walk away. Again. And if you ever approach my children, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly how Nova Bio was founded. How Graham Caldwell tried to destroy the mother of his children because she didn't fit his political ambitions. How many lives almost weren't saved because of your cruelty." "Mama!" Luna ran over, tugging my hand. "The cookie man says I can have 2. I smoothed her hair, never breaking eye contact with Graham. "That's wonderful, baby. Let's go see." We walked away. He didn't follow. Power, I realized, wasn't about money or connections. It was about knowing your worth and refusing to negotiate it. 5 years later, the letter arrived on a Tuesday. Tuesdays had become my favorite. No surgeries scheduled, just research and time with the kids. "Dear Dr. Liang," Lucas read aloud, practicing his reading. "Thank you for saving my son's life." He looked up. "Mom, this one's in English and... What language is this?" "Nepali," I said, taking the letter. My hands trembled as I read the rest. "A boy in Kathmandu, 8 years old, born with multiple cardiac defects, given weeks to live until a Nova biomembrane gave his heart the chance to heal itself." His mother had drawn a picture at the bottom, stick figures of her family, all holding hands, with hearts drawn over their chests. At the bottom, in careful English, "His heart carries your signature. Thank you for not giving up." "Why are you crying, Mom?" Luna asked, abandoning her coding project to investigate. "Happy tears, remember?" "Again?" Lucas joined us, making it a group hug. "You have a lot of happy tears." I did. More than I'd ever imagined possible. The Nova Bio Institute occupied 3 floors of a building in South San Francisco now. 42 employees, 300 successful implementations worldwide. And in the developing world where we provided the technology at cost, thousands more. But home was still chaos. Lucas had inherited my stubbornness and Graham's competitive streak, channeled into youth robotics competitions. Luna was all artist and dreamer, teaching herself to code so she could build emotion programs that helped kids understand feelings. Neither knew about Graham beyond someone who wasn't ready to be a father. Someday, I'd tell them more. When they were ready, when I was ready. "Mom, can we visit?" Lucas asked, still looking at the letter. "The boy in Nepal?" "Maybe someday." "We could bring him robot parts," Lucas suggested. "Or art supplies," Luna countered. They bickered good-naturedly while I stared out the window of our Palo Alto home. Not a penthouse, not marble and glass, just a real home with mismatched furniture and walls covered in children's artwork and certificates of lives saved. My phone buzzed. Dr. Chen, now a close friend, saw the news. Graham's company filed for bankruptcy. Fraud investigation. Thought you should know. I set the phone aside without responding. That chapter was closed. Had been for years. "Mom!" Luna called. "Lucas says robots are better than art." "I said more useful," Lucas protested. "Both," I said, pulling them close. "You need both. Logic and creativity. Science and art. Sometimes the best innovations come from unexpected combinations. Like a contaminated sample that led to a breakthrough. Like heartbreak that led to healing. Like two children who arrived too early, but exactly when they were meant to. My heart had been broken, shattered, scattered across a marble floor 52 stories above Chicago. But hearts, I'd learned, were remarkable things. They could grow back stronger. They could expand to hold more love than you thought possible. They could beat for others, hundreds of others, thousands of others, without losing their rhythm. "I love you both," I told my children. "More than all the stars." "More than all the molecules," Lucas added. "More than all the colors that haven't been invented yet," Luna finished. We sat there, the three of us, as the California sun set over Silicon Valley. Whole, complete, burning bright. They can take away your reputation, your opportunities, even your dreams. But if you still have faith, if you still have the strength to rise again, then you already hold something more powerful than privilege, the ability to reinvent yourself. If you've ever been overlooked, abandoned, remember, sometimes the only thing you need is not to give up.